thanks for all tuning in tonight. I'm not going to bore you too much longer with introductions. We don't have to do the fire exit talk, and hopefully you all know how to get outside of your own houses. So I'm going to hand over to our fantastic guest, Juan, who's going to go through forging creativity in your training session. So over to you, Juan. Thank you very much.
Cool, Trev, Lee, Christian, well done. I love the fact you got your middle name in your username. We just lost someone. Welcome everyone. It's great to have you back. Thanks if you are joining for the first time. On a Sunday evening, we keep rotating around days, afternoons, evening, which is great. I hope you're all well and safe from very, very snowy Midlands in England at the moment. I've never seen so much snow since we moved down here 4 years ago, which is incredible. So I can tell you my daughter is going to sleep very well tonight, as we all are. So yeah, great to have you back, guys. Yeah, as Trev said, if you're keen to get your cameras going, I think it becomes a little bit more personal, which I think it get us a little bit closer in this day and era. Yeah, if somebody's waiting to get on the call, I'm sure Trev will look after them in the participants panel. We're going to have a slightly different dynamic of the evening. It's going to be hopefully quite interactive. We're going to use quite a bit of the chat box, yeah, and you're going to have some secret missions to try to accomplish over the evening. Don't look that suspicious, Claire. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. You can stay in Paris for now, okay? Yeah, just keep an eye on the chat, especially if you're on your phones. You probably have to flick between screens. Keep an eye on it. You might get a secret mission. It is a secret mission, so don't tell anyone about the secret mission. Yeah, I've had a couple this week with secret missions of people. I've got a secret mission. What do I do with it? Well, it's secret. There you go. Anyway, forging creativity. We're going to be chatting a little bit about it. Obviously, we try to get this across every single sport. And we've got a variety of sports on, which is fantastic. Tell me the most creative thing you've done in a session. Who wants to kick us off? Most creative thing, let's go.
Thank you on the spot now.
Most creative thing that was safe and purposeful. What do you reckon? We've got the chat going. Yeah, so playing around with different sports, says Gareth. Cool. You jump in the conversation, Gareth. Feel more than free to do so. Anything in particular, Gareth, or you just play a bit of netball, a bit of judo, throwing people around? Playing with a soccer ball?
Yeah, sorry, we just took them for a couple of judo sessions, really, to focus on kind of body handling and manipulation.
Cool. Fantastic.
Taking it out of our sport could give them the skill, then plug it back into our sport and see if they changed the way they were doing it because they weren't thinking about rugby at the time.
Yeah. What sort of reactions did you notice on the, I don't know if you work with adults or children or participants, you call them?
It was with kind of under 15, under 16 rugby players. They were really embraced it really well, or some of them had a go at it before. Just
yeah.
Anyway. I thought it translated when watching them in the game. You saw them doing a few of their crocodile rolls and things like that.
Brilliant, yeah. Did you guys have a bit of a go between adults?
Yeah, it's something I do anyway. So yeah, and some of the other coaches enjoyed joining in as well.
Brilliant, good man, Gareth, mixing it up a little bit. Anyone else has a creative example that comes in? We're gonna have a look at loads of examples. Come on.
I do one in the gym, Juan. Had a group of rugby players, 8 to 10 of them in the gym. So I set them a challenge. You got to lift, you got to squat 10,000 kilograms between you all. You've got to do 200 chin-ups between you all. You've got to do X amount of kilograms of bench pressing or something like that. And then they have to go and, with all these different exercises, figure out a strategy as to how they're going to do it and how they're going to divvy up all the sets and reps and make it manageable, which is quite good. Just let them loose on it. Obviously, just making sure they don't do anything unsafe.
Yeah, absolutely. Got you. So playing around with not only the task but the outcome of the task as well. Marjorie, Claire.
Say that again. Oh, is that French? Bonjour.
What have we got?
Well, we do loads of silly things, to be fair. I'm not sure whether you'd call them creative, but we use loads of things to relax people, especially if we have new age groups mixing in with different age groups. Then we might do a catwalk walk, do your best catwalk walk or something, to all the music. And we do a lot of things with sweets and chocolate where we have to guard them.
Okay. The guardians of the chocolate.
Yeah, it's like the ball, but if you can save the chocolate, you got to keep it. It's a deal. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Interesting. You mentioned the word silly. How come?
Well, just everybody has a laugh, and it's sort of like losing your inhibitions in front of all the other people and just sort of being like, you get to know people and what they're like as a person because of the way they've decided to do something. I learn my players from, those who would rather be reserved and not do it. We don't force people to do it, but they do like to laugh and have a giggle with the people that do want to do it. So, I find them all informative, even if they don't have an outcome for the game as such.
Yeah, I think most times they do, to be honest. I think most times they do. Perhaps it's not directly with we started from the center having a shot at goal or whatever, but they do intervene with the game. Thanks, Claire. Juan was sharing there on the chat as well. Put different responsibilities to teams. Cool. I mean, example, John.
Yes,
no, not really.
Tough.
Oh, sorry.
It's a tough one, isn't it? I've never thought about it before. So we might have 3 different small-sided games going on, and rather than splitting the teams into 6, so this is in a football session, rather than splitting the teams into 6, split them into 2 teams and say, look, your blues versus reds across all 3 pitches. It's up to you how you distribute your team. If you want 4 players on that pitch and 2 on that pitch, and you want your best attacking players over there, that's on you. But I think it's getting creative. That's a tough one. Away from the tactical stuff.
Definitely different to the traditional model where people used to tell people what to do, and if you were lucky enough, you were told why they had to do it. Cool. John's got one there. Play silently. Yeah, cool. I've used that to maximize some sort of problem as well. So what happened when we're not talking? What happened when we're all talking and stuff like that? Cool example, John. Thank you. Brilliant. We're going to see somebody I consider really, really creative. Yeah, he's somebody that has a big influence on me as a coach. Somebody that is pushing, I would have thought 52, 53 by now. That person in the middle there is Peter Walton. Waltz is coach everything and play for everyone that you can imagine in rugby union. And this is in South Africa with the 18s. It was the first one to volunteer for a dance-off with these 2 guys over there. So just have a little look around what happens. It was meant to be a tiger or something like that. There you go. Someone's got, and I'm not quite sure, 40-something caps for Scotland, play for Northampton Saints, top of the game. First one to volunteer, first one to jump in, first one to set an example in a way. He's got 2 knee replacements, by the way, so he was trying his absolute best there. And you can see him there again in that picture on the left. Again, this is in South Africa, in the High Performance Centre in Stellenbosch, where I was fortunate to be a couple of times. And he's working around with some of the players around the line out, which is like a throw in rugby union. He's got a 16, 17-year-old with him, and he's playing around with the sauces at breakfast, and they're discussing different tactics, I'm sure, and different techniques and stuff like that. The picture in the middle is something that I think most of you, if you're in rugby, you've heard about cards, which is what the RFU is trying to forge in a way, which is around non-cognitive skills. It's got to do with creativity, awareness, resilience, decision-making, and self-organization, which is an anagram for cards. I'll send you some stuff around it on the resources. And I've been fortunate enough to have two of them, of those players that are there at school, and then coach them through the age groups as well. And they used to wear, when they were in camp, who represents those non-cognitive skills throughout the day until the next day. Yeah. So a different way of trying to forge different non-cognitive skills in this case. And the last picture on your far right is Marcus. Marcus is a professional rugby player, and just have a look at the intentionality around that meeting or that gathering, where people are sitting next to each other rather than opposite each other. They're sitting in some comfy chairs. They got the logo, yeah. They got the rose, which represents the Rugby Football Union, and the player is barefoot. Yeah, he's not wearing his shoes because he's comfortable that way. Obviously, his phone is far away from him because he's obviously quite in touch with it and sort of sticking to it. And they're just sharing, and there's lots of intentionality around how they're sitting, where they are, and all those bits. So again, different ways of trying to get something that we've all done in the past. I'm sure we've had conversations with players. We try to develop beyond the athlete or the sportswoman or man. And we've tried different things and tried to explain different things in different ways. Yeah. So hence why I always try to put some similar photographs when we speak about creativity, because I think Peter and this team, I think some of you met John Fletcher and Russell Engine when they were there at the island, and they've done some bits with some of you coaches. So they were sort of leading that program as well. So fortunate enough to have worked with them for a few years. So here we go. Creativity is usually associated with children. Yeah, it's usually associated with like Claire said before, with stuff that is out of the normal stuff we normally do. Yeah, but this is a question that brings a bit of an expressions to people's faces when I put it up. Yeah, that is sort of the expressions that come up. Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever met somebody who has been a child before? You're allowed to answer. You're allowed to answer. There you go. Okay, so we just had Christmas a few weeks ago. What do children tend to play the morning of Christmas more likely, and why? Juan is laughing already. Come on.
I've got a 2.5-year-old and he likes playing with cardboard boxes, obviously.
There you go. Why? How come? Because I'm sure inside that cardboard box was something really cool, really expensive with all the gadgets. So why does he end up playing with the cardboard box?
Can be anything he wants it to be.
There you go. Absolutely anything he wanted to be. So in this case, you got pirates, they're in a ship, they're after a treasure. There's some sharks around them and they're trying to look for some island or whatever it is. Yeah. So, and that's our interpretation of what they are thinking. Yeah. So I'm sure you've come across this gentleman before. Interesting quote. Any thoughts around it? What do you reckon?
I think we get less creative as we get older, and we sort of start putting ourselves in little boxes and lose a bit of that creativity.
No doubt, no doubt. We start growing up and we start losing it. Why do you think that is, Trev, or anyone?
We don't get the time to do it so much. Busy doing work and compulsory stuff. When do you get the chance, other than maybe sport, to express your creativity?
There you go.
Get kids, and you get to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an interesting point that you just got across there, in terms of when we do sports, because I see a lot of people coaching that are not coaching in a very creative way. They're coaching in a very similar way to how they were coached, which I wouldn't consider very, very creative whatsoever. And again, I see a lot of people coaching children how they would coach adults in exactly the same manner, and going into loads of sessions online and going through the millions of clips in YouTube, and they normally, what they search for is the top performance team in their sport. Okay, so in rugby union would be the All Blacks. Okay, so they go and find what the All Blacks are doing. They try to reproduce what they're under 11s, which I think there's lots of things that are not great around those two things, those two examples. Some secret missions are flying around, so feel free to try to accomplish a secret mission. Let's have a look at this little girl. We generally thinking in a very expansive manner, in a very expansive way when we're children, when we're younger. And as you just said, as we start growing, we start thinking in a slightly more constrained way of thinking. Yeah, we start thinking in a way that is, if you ask me, a lot more reduced in terms of capacity of what we're trying to do. Yeah. What's happening in this image? What do you think is happening in this image over there? Why do you think it is, and what just happened, and what's about to happen? Have a go.
The teacher in the school has just asked the class a question.
Okay. And then somebody's got to put their hands up if they know the answer. Yeah, and somebody will be jumping in front of the teacher's face because they're really sure about their answer. And somebody will be trying to hide somewhere in the back, like that little girl in the green behind the boy in the orange. They're trying to hide themselves. Yeah. How different would it look if they would all be listening to each other and trying to talk when nobody else is talking, or waiting for their turn to talk and stuff like that? What do you think? Would that be really messy? Would that be really chaotic at start with? My thing is how they're learning to do that. If every time somebody asks them a question, they're going to put their hand up.
They're conditioned to do it. Sorry, I'll give some context. I work in a school, so see this mess quite a lot. It's easy for the teacher to maintain, and it's like you say, it's what's been done for years. Children should be seen and not heard. So you speak when you're spoken to. The problem is you're following cultural norms as well as classroom norms. So I think it's bigger than the classroom. It's, children, like I say, should put their hand up, shouldn't speak out of turn, and that's not just the 30 hours a week they're in school.
Absolutely. Can you imagine your work environment if you went to a meeting? Does anybody put their hands up in a work in a meeting at work? I don't think that happens very often. Actually, we've obviously been working remotely for some time, and I spend quite a few hours a day in Zoom. The people that put their hand up, like Juan just did over there, it never happens. They always go to the chat. I did a webinar on Tuesday with 96 participants. I think people put their hand up twice, but there were hundreds of comments in the chat box. Okay, so I still don't get to grips with the fact that, like this little girl here, or this classroom here, that people got to wait for somebody to tell them where can they speak when we're trying to create individuals, or try to foment the fact that individuals need to listen to each other and respect the other's opinions and argue in the reasonable way of that word and have conversations, have discussions. So yeah, I mean, I'm still staggered by the fact that we're getting people to raise their hands, and every time I do in a session for the first time, which happens quite often, or used to happen quite often, loads of boys and girls will actually put their hands up on the pitch. Yeah, and it's happened to me a couple of times. I've shouted things like, "All right, freeze where you are," or have a conversation with the person next to you, or stuff like that, and or come here, let's have a conversation. And people do put their hands up in these groups, and it just seems like robots to me. But anyway, that's probably just me. Anyway, so what do you think's happening in this home? I think the average age of that photo is about 75. So what do you think's happening? Leslie's giggling. Come on, Leslie. We'll welcome you, and you tell us what are your thoughts on that photo? You got to unmute yourself, Leslie. Click the 3 dots there.
That's a bonus. That's a bonus. Trust me. You're still on mute, Shimon.
Hey.
There you go.
I'm in the room. I think it's lots of old people having fun, actually.
Absolutely. How come they're having fun? What are they doing?
They're playing silly games.
They're playing?
Silly games.
They are playing. They're expressing themselves. They are playing absolutely fine. I think it's just not the people that are directly playing what we assume is a game. I think lots of people around them are actually having a great time. And I'm very conscious we cannot be playing every single minute of the day. But I think there's ways that we could be encouraged to play. And actually, I'm going to send you a couple of resources on the email that I normally send out within 24 hours after we have our conversations. It normally tends to land in your junk inbox, so you need to look around for it a little bit. If you just click the address and make the safe sender or whatever it's called, then it should come in your inbox. I'm going to send you a couple of resources from Dale, who's an Australian guy, and he talks about game and play a lot. And he's basically got a couple of TED Talks that he talks about how to make room in your life for play and sort of the benefits around that, which I think is fantastic. So you probably have to slow it down a little bit. He speaks really, really quickly. I think it's a great resource for you to not only show your colleagues, your co-coaches, but also your players and your children for sure. And so you'll get that on the email that is going the next 24 hours. This is a photo from the offices of Google in Singapore, where I've been fortunate enough to spend a day. How come people are encouraged to have a play? We've talked about these sorts of environments before, but come on, what are your thoughts when you see these? This is the first thing you see when you walk into the actual offices after what is normally called reception. What do you reckon? There's lots of secret missions as well going about, so don't forget about your secret missions. Any thoughts on that?
That looks like a pretty fun place to have some opening expression.
Yeah,
Try
absolutely.
not to be too serious. They don't want too much sort of suit and tie in the environment.
I think if we are 9 people in this school, I think if you were given the option of being able to work there, you would. Yeah. I think if you were given the option, everything in line, all your ducks in a row, you go and work there, you would say yes. That's just my gut feeling. So, where do you normally have your best ideas? In light, come on. What are you doing when you get that eureka moment? checking the chat. I'm checking the chat. Go on, open your mics. Let us know. Where do you have your best ideas?
Sadly, I tend to have my best ones when I'm in work and I'm not supposed to be thinking about hockey. And
Okay.
I have to write things down and work them out in the evening, by which time the moment's gone. But actually working at home at the moment, it allows you to spend 5 or 10 minutes on things, just almost break up lunch breaks and breaks and do little creative things for 5 or 10 minutes. So it does help.
There you go. So let me get this right, John. You get your best ideas about hockey when you're at work, which has got nothing to do with hockey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it might be something that triggers something else off. Or
Yeah.
Cool.
Who else?
With me, it's walking the dog.
There you go, walking the dog. Leslie did put her hand up and then she put it down really quickly.
I did it. Yeah.
Cool, Leslie, when she's walking the dog. Who else? Leslie, you look like a chocolate lab. Is that right? No chocolate lab.
That's
Oh,
a bloody mad
spaniel.
spaniel.
Spaniel, there you go, mad dogs. Who else?
Probably driving, but
Okay. Driving, listen to your favorite tunes. Gareth?
I think when I'm playing with my kids and I see them enjoying themselves, and I'm like, oh, hang on, they're liking this. This was just made up. What's this? Let's see if anyone else likes it.
Okay, so you related that to your practices or your teaching, coaching environment. That's cool. I think I've asked that question a number of times. I mean, if I had to put a number of it, it'd probably be just over 100 times, I would have thought. Nobody has ever told me at work. Nobody has ever said, I've got my best ideas at work where I'm actually getting paid to have good ideas. Because that's the purpose of your job, isn't it? Someone employs you or you're on your own business, and then you go and try to have your best ideas to get the best productivity, the best service, the best product you can develop, or whatever it is that you actually do. Nobody has ever told me that they got the best ideas when they're working, which is just bizarre, isn't it? Because we're actually being paid to have our best ideas when we are at work.
I'm quite bizarre then, aren't I?
Well, but that's why I wanted to clarify, John, because you said your best ideas for hockey were when you were at work.
Yeah, things flash through my head and I think, I must try that or I must do this. And I end up jotting little notes down about something I might do in a session or whatever, and then work on them in the evenings or lunch breaks. There you go, absolutely.
I
guess it might be because my as you said, your mind is supposed to be active. You're supposed to be having ideas. I'm often looking through quite, I suppose, boring, thick documents, and then you just need to let your mind wander for 2 or 3 minutes to get back on track, and suddenly something. Oh, I'll do that. So,
well, actually, John, you gave me a really good line to follow through, because we just described in your own words, it's got to do with our conscious state and our unconscious state. Okay, so you describe it as when our mind is doing something else. I think that those were your words. So just picture yourself the following. So picture yourself at work. Picture yourself having a bit of an argument, a spicy argument with somebody. You finish that argument. So you leave the staff room or you leave the office or whatever it is that you work at. You sit down with your favorite frappuccino, whatever you drink, around the corner in your favorite shop. What is the first thing that comes into your head following from the argument about 20 minutes later?
Oh, I should have said this and I should have said that.
Boom. There you go. I should have said this. This would have proved my point because I'm right. Okay. I can't believe I didn't think of this. I should have said this. Okay. And again, is related to the previous example. Okay. So where can be like that discussion? okay, where we're actually walking the dog or we're having a shower or whatever it is that we're doing, and then those ideas come into our heads, okay? And there's actually some science behind it, yeah? So just have a quick look at these words, and we'll do the following, yeah? So if you think they are related with our conscious state of mind, okay, stand up. Okay, so Bev, Jess, I don't know if you can get your cameras on or not, but we'll trust you. If you think it's related to our conscious state of mind, stand up. If you think it's related to our unconscious state of mind, sit down. Okay, you can squat, you can be in the middle. You gotta either stand up or sit down. All right, so we're gonna go with the first one, which is emotions over there. Is it conscious? Stand up. Is it unconscious? Sit down. Okay, there you go. Self-preservation. Interesting. Claire's being creative. When we're analyzing stuff, what do you reckon? Okay, interesting. When we're scared or frightened, what do you reckon? Cool. Got a couple more. I've been impulsive, reactive, saying perhaps something that we shouldn't have said. We're reflecting. Cool. John is loving this standing and sitting down. When we're dreaming, okay, I daydream a lot, I must admit. Justifying something because we're reasonable. Cool. Thoughts, those great ideas. Fantasizing about our next holiday. Something that we're not quite happy with. Normally happened when we were little. Cool. Last one. Cool. Right. So there's a lot of information in that infographic over there. I'll send that to you so you can have a deep, more thorough sort of go through. But it always strikes me. It always strikes me the fact that we spend from the, let's call it 16 hours that we're awake during the day, we would normally spend about 5% of our day in that sort of conscious, 5 to 10%, according to this resource there, in that conscious mind. Okay. Hence, I'm not surprised at all with all the bits that he told us where you have your best ideas. Okay. Let's do something that we haven't done before. You're going to get a survey. We're going to have to vote. Okay, there you go. You got 5 options. The question is, are you creative? There we go. Some answers are coming through. Cool. We'll get another 5 seconds. 4, 3. There we go. Good stuff. That's what we normally will get. Okay. I'm not quite sure why, but I think people are, there's a bit of a stigma about people being creative. Yeah. It's normally, I think it's normally related with being silly or doing things out than what we normally call normal. People being called mavericks and stuff like that. People are not particularly happy with those labels. Let's do another one. There we go. So think about your workplace. It's important the fact that we're trying to develop it. Okay, cool. One more to come through. There you go. And once again, nobody has ever told me not at all. Never. And you got the results there. I'm going to share the results with you so you can see them. There you go. So nobody has ever told me that creativity is completely pointless or irrelevant in their workplace. Cool. So that's a nice start for you. We'll stop sharing that and we'll do one more. We'll do the last one. Thanks for doing this, by the way. So even if you don't hire people in your current role, place yourself in that, let's call it a managing role or a decision-making role. Okay, interesting. We got one more vote to come through. It's going to come through. There we go. Okay, I'll share that with you. There you go. Interesting what these people in those decision-making positions are actually thinking about creativity. Cool. Thanks for doing that. Let's have a look at some quotes of some people that I think have made a bit of a dent in history. Let's have a little trivia. Not many people trying to achieve their secret missions, which is interesting. Most of you have a secret mission by now. What do you reckon? What do we get from this equation? I know it's Sunday evening.
Training wheels.
Training wheels, Vev. As in stabilizers.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not far off. You're not far off. How do you need the training wheels with a trainer? I'm intrigued, Vev. Anyone else want to have a shot? Juan is not happy, he's not getting it. Have you got it, Trev? Is it a lot easier than what you're thinking? It's not a trick question.
Yeah, I look at it, I think, if you wear Nike, you're going to go faster.
Oh, there you go. You were complicating yourself. There you go. There you go. Another example would be, for the ones that are over 30 like myself, MTV back in the day did something really different, combining music videos with television and music as such. There was no one else doing it, and they are what they are nowadays. Yeah, so there you go. Lots of people talk about being persistent. So there's a good example over there. Have you heard about the expression when the penny drops? Does anybody knows where it comes from?
From those fairground machines when the money goes in and they push the money over the edge.
I've got a different version for you, John. I've got a different version. So this gentleman over there, Thomas Edison, he used to fall asleep with an actual penny between his legs, between his knees. And then when he was completely relaxed, obviously, then the penny would drop. And that's perhaps when he got some ideas on how to develop some of his inventions. I don't know if it's true or not. I just heard the story. I think it's a cool story, but there you go. I think it lines up as well. So lots of stories around Salvador Dali and the fact that he used to fall asleep on his canvas when he was creating stuff. And as soon as he sort of would have waken up, he would draw he would paint the first thing that came that came in his head. And obviously he's created a number of masterpieces in some years. Again, more secret missions going around. Don't be shy. Another example over there. So Henry Ford changed the line of assembly. Most of you would have studied this in school, yeah. So he started moving the cars rather than moving the people around it, or the engineers. So perhaps sometimes we need to step away a little bit, have a think. I think it's the only example in modern era that is double its productivity around a product in less than a year. So if they used to produce, I don't know, 200 cars a year, he went over 400 the next year, which is just unreal. So there you go.
Henry Ford wasn't that creative though, Juan, because he only made black cars.
There you go. He did change the industry, so I'm going to give you that. Do you know why he only did black cars?
No, it's quicker and cheaper.
There you go, probably. But he didn't figure it out how to make them green or yellow or orange or whatever. But there we go. Perhaps we need to step away for a little bit. Another little trivia for you. What can you make with those 4 things if you were beginning of the century and you wanted to pattern something new that's never been done before? I'll be really impressed if you get this one. I'm not going to lie.
Can make a windsock.
Snow,
says Trevor. What did you say, John?
A windsock.
I'm not quite sure what that is.
Well, it shows the direction the wind's blowing from.
All right, got you.
A tube on the top of a pole, and then the wind blows through it, and you can see which way the wind's coming from.
You wouldn't know the actual wind because you have fun, wouldn't you?
Well, you demonstrate it, I suppose.
Okay, there you go. Anyone else?
A boat.
Come on, Gareth.
A boat.
A boat. So you can go on it, you have a propeller. Yeah, there you go. And you got a sailboat because you got a pillowcase. I don't think it would go very far though, wouldn't you?
Your soapbox was plastic rather than metal, you might be, rather than cardboard, you might be all right.
Can you read what that is?
wow. I don't know. Hovercraft, I don't know. Can't see.
That's a Hoover.
Carpet sweeper, apparently.
There you go. There you go. Little Hoover. People used to clean in different ways. I think Leslie mentioned this one when she's walking around with her spaniel. It's got to do with the chemicals that are released in our brain, in our head when we're walking, when we're doing physical activity. I don't know if it's a bit of a legend or what, but William Wordsworth, I think it's believed that he's walked more than 180,000 miles in his life. He spent most of the day walking and writing. Don't ask me how he did it, but he's written some cool stuff, hasn't he?
Well, he wandered lonely as a cloud, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Who knows what that is?
It's the original Apple mouse.
Yes. So Bill Gates took this to IBM back in the day, early 80s, and they said it wouldn't work. Okay. Every single computer in the world's got some sort of mouse pad or mouse or something, yeah. So how many times that work? At practice, we actually go, nah, I don't think that's going to work. Let's stick with what we normally do. Let's stick with the exits in my sports, which is a word that I don't really like, or whatever it is. I was really surprised no one told me in the shower when we were chatting about where you had your best ideas, or in the toilet or something like that. All very polite, obviously.
We're all a bit polite, yeah.
There you go. So talking about a few bits that happen in our body when we're relaxing. I'll send you all these bits. A bit of inspiration as well. How many of you have been across the different sports, training, or matches or games fixtures in the last 2 years? Juan, where have you been? Your football and your soccer, where have you been?
I watched a bit of netball.
What a bit of netball.
My wife plays.
Intentionally, or you're just supporting the wife?
Yeah.
Intentionally supporting the wife.
You go to support the wife, but you end up watching patterns and things more closely.
Cool. What about you, Claire?
I tried to go to all the sports, so I've been to jiu-jitsu, rugby. I even went to roller skating to see if there was anything there. I watch anything on the telly because I want to take the best out of everybody else's sports and what works for them and what works for the girls that I play with. So yeah, I don't think there's any harm in trying to adapt anything that you might think will work for.
Yeah, I think it's actually the opposite. I think there's lots of benefits from going and exploring and picking people's brains and stuff. I'm fortunate enough to work with a number of clubs in Europe, especially in Italy and in South America, where they are multi-sports club. Okay, so I've done some bits with one is AC Milano, and they got all the sports you can think of, or Barcelona in Spain. Yeah, they got the sports I can think of. You obviously hear about the football a lot. You hear about the handball, but they got every sport that you can. They got the four-wheel skating, ice skate. It's not ice skating; it's roller skating. Okay, but they got all the sports that you can think of, and lots of them got what they normally call a pedagogy department, where all the people get together from all the sports to try to discuss how they're teaching, how people are learning, and all the educational tendencies of the modern era. And it's incredibly beneficial because most of those children will go and experience different sports as well. I think we're not that fortunate, at least in this country, where you got your rugby club and then you go to your hockey or your netball club or whatever it is. But I think we need to start doing it a lot more often. I think we need to start just discussing practice with other coaches. I think it would be really, really beneficial. So seeking a little bit of inspiration, like Newton used to do, I think it would be great. Why do you think somebody like Apple or Google are actually having a go at making cars? Obviously, that doesn't look great if you ask me. But why do you think we've got something so alien to their industry? So Apple, they make technology or computers, iPods, whatever, phones. Google, they're there are a lot of things, but they're a web search. So what do you reckon? Why do you think they're going into cars?
Trying to use what they've got in other environments. They want to put their platforms, be it mapping, searching, artificial intelligence, they want to put it in commonplace environments that are away from the desk.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a concept that both of those companies actually play around with a lot. And there's a number of things that both companies have developed that we will never know about. And they talk about the naive expert theory. And it's basically what's on the tin. So you've never done something like that. So you don't have any preconceptions of what could something look like, or what's the output, or what's the service, or whatever it is. So, and I'll give you a practical example. When I'm delivering a level 1 course, like a coaching course, the most creative coaches would be around my sports again, which is rugby union, will be mums that have never played rugby before, okay? And they're just helping out in the local clubs. Why do you think? Well, I mean, they wouldn't normally solve the problem that is, for example, try to get somebody to pass in a better way or whatever it is. But they will have lots of ideas around it on how to manipulate that task through those, let's call them constraints for the sake of it. We talked about constraints last time. Why do you think that is?
Come on, you mums. He's asking you, not us blokes.
suppose because you're constantly thinking how to adapt situations all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I had a
you're not constrained by your previous experience. You've got to think outside the box. It's that I can't remember his name. The Indian basketball coach who took his daughter's team, obviously in the States, and he was like, "Why does everyone play a half court press?"
There you go.
What's his name? That's going to annoy me.
He's an Indian coach. Say it again.
It's talked about, I think, in Bounce. It's an Indian basketball coach. He's like an Indian guy that's moved over to the States, and he coaches his daughter's basketball team.
Okay.
And the done thing in basketball is to play a half court press. And he sort of said, "Well, they're better than you. Why are we letting them have the ball, go and play full court press, and go and just get the ball back off them, and not allow them to do what they're good at?" So his view of the world obviously wasn't constrained by basketball theory.
There you go. Good example.
I get a lot of players asking me, what press are we playing? What press are we playing? And I answer them, I don't know, just get the ball back in whatever way you want. But there's so many that have been through coaching periods and sessions where people say, oh, we must, as Julian's saying about the full court press, the half court press, whatever. And I go, well, perhaps we just do something slightly different, and you just charge around without any real sort of structure and get the ball back off them. Now, it's easier in the invasion games that, like that sort of basketball, I suppose hockey, because there's no offside. Football and rugby is a little bit less, but it is more constrained because of that daft offside rule you've got.
There you go.
Netball, because those daft rules, you can't go into other parts of the court.
Yeah, cool. A good example will be, again, in my sport, which is rugby union, go and watch some clips from the Barbarians, which is basically a mix-up team with superstars from around the world. They will try to play some cool stuff. Wherever you go, there's two of you asking the same question about your secret mission. The answer is wherever you want. Let's try to do something together. Get any piece of paper that you going around, and try to get some sort of marker or something that is a little bit more than a pen or pencil, a little bit thicker, so we can then share what we're about to draw. We're going to try to draw what we're going to try to draw in 7 seconds, which is not a lot of time. Okay, cool. Most people look ready. There we go. So it's going to come up. It's going to come up what we're going to try to draw together, and then we're going to try to share it once it's completed. I'm going to try to take a photo of what we just drawn. Okay. Right. 7 seconds to draw something that looks like a house. Let's go. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Last second. What's that show where they say pens down? Okay, let's share it. Bring it as close as you can to the screen. There we go. Look at that. Leave your drawings there for a sec. Gareth, try to get yours in the middle. Other way, there you go. I'll take a picture of that. Boom, I've done it. Now, can you all see each other's drawings? Claire's giggling all the way from France. Why is Claire giggling?
We're all the same.
It was very similar, wasn't it?
We're all conditioned to draw little square houses with 4 windows to the door and a chimney. Yeah.
There you go. So how many of you had the door in the middle?
Yeah.
There you go. Houses with like a cross, some sort of, no? Chimney, what a chimney.
Yeah.
Got some trees around it.
No.
Well, 7 seconds wasn't getting any trees then.
Yeah, 7 seconds.
What a pointy roof.
Yeah.
There you go. So this was my premonition. Did it look something like that? So if we were doing that, let's pick a random country. Let's call it let's pick Kazakhstan. I'm doing Kazakhstan in a month's time. So let's go with Kazakhstan. If we were doing that exercise in Kazakhstan with a bunch of children in prep school, 10-year-old children, do you think they'll draw the same house? I wouldn't have thought so, no. If we go and do that in the Philippines, in the middle of Manila, with 15-year-olds, I think they'll draw a different house. So what does it tell you? I mean, you've just been part of an experience, which I think is quite powerful. What we're thinking.
Well, go back to what we were talking about with the hands up earlier on. We're all conditioned from our school days that that's how you draw the house, and the teachers aren't saying let's be creative, let's draw a block of flats, or let's draw a shanty town, or let's draw a mansion with at least 20 windows. We're all saying, well, let's draw a house, and we all go, oh, house, 4 windows, 1 door, roof, chimney.
There you go.
That's what we've all been told to do, and we've been patted on the back for doing.
For me, it goes back to what Gareth said. Oh,
go on, John.
No, go on, Gareth.
No, you're right. Go on.
It goes back to what you said at the start. It's that time constraint. When you put that time constraint on, you immediately limit your options. You go, right, let's do what I know rather than let's have a think about it.
Yeah, so I was kind of going to say as well, it's when put under pressure, people revert back to what they know, be it if you're trying to, if I'm trying to describe a technique of running to someone, they're all right if you break it down, they do it in their parts, and then you get them 5K into a run and they're knackered, and they start running in the strange leg heel flicking way that they were before. So they say they've still got their injury, and it's because they can't do the new thing for long enough yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody used to jump in the high jump event in athletics in a certain way, and then this guy came across and changed it. What was the first reaction?
Is that legal?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. He's a cheater. Can't jump like that. There's nothing in the rules that says you can run like that. You couldn't jump like that.
But I was watching something on that the other night, and it said that he started doing it, but he couldn't because he'd go to away meetings and they didn't have a proper, spongy landing area. He was still jumping into sand pits, so he'd have to go back to his straddle style when he went to some away high schools and places like that. And it was only once they sort of started bringing in the landing mat, the crash mat type of thing in across the US sport that Fosbury and it became popular. So there's a constraint. You can't do a technique like that if you're going to land on a hard surface. You have to do the straddle jump because you land on your feet. Absolutely. Rather than the Fosbury flop where you land on your back and your neck. So I guess in our sports we've got to say, well, what can we do within the the constraints that we've got? And, we a lot of us play on hard courts or hard pitches. You can't demand that people throw themselves on the floor because they're gonna pick injuries up. Yeah, I mean rugby. I mean, Juan, you must have seen the differences in the AstroTurf pitches compared to grass pitches and the techniques and the tackling techniques and things.
Absolutely. Who else? Who has got something? How can we all draw the same house? People are multitasking, achieving secret missions at the same time. Can't one?
I think sort of you wait for something to happen, don't you? So John was talking before about the offside rule in football, and then at the weekend there's the Man City game in the week. The versus it was Tyrone Mings, wasn't it? There's been a goal
the FA Cup,
caught, the offside goal that wasn't an offside goal, and actually you're thinking, right, okay, well, can you use that to your advantage? Can you play? I'm thinking, can you come up with a tactic, or maybe in a 4-4-2, where you play your two strikers really close together, and one of them stands offside on purpose to distract the defender, so that then that frees up the other player and he can drop back in. You know, stuff like that, things that happen in the game. In the 90s, when the goalkeeper back pass rule was brought in, the game changed massively from the way it used to. And think about the modern goalkeeper in Neuer and how keepers now play, Alisson, Edison. Like things change because someone did it and it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a close link with deception as well, and using deception to try to trick the opposition. I'll retweet something that I tweeted a couple of months ago from a women's soccer team in America. They a free kick. They basically started arguing. Yeah, somebody was opposite the ball and somebody was meant to kick the ball. They started arguing. In the middle of the discussion, one decided to kick the ball and the other way kick it the other way, and nobody was suspecting it. Everybody went one way, but by the time they reacted, it was already a goal. I'll retweet that, and I'll see if I can add it to the resources, because I think there's a close link between people trying to be creative and deceptive at the same time. So seeking advantage on the opposition seems to be one of them. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. I've got a photo there from a group of coaches in Chile, and one of them chairs, there was a little microphone with a karaoke sort of song they had to sing. One of you has received that secret karaoke microphone in the chat, so go to the chat, have a look. You're going to sing us, to wrap it all up tonight, your best karaoke song. Have a look through the chat. One of you should have the message. Gareth, is it you? John, is it you? Someone just logged off just in case it was them.
Well, it's got to be the person without a hat on, isn't it?
He's got a person without a hat on. Is it you, Claire? No, it's not Claire. All right, I'm gonna put you out of your misery. It's no one. I haven't sent it to anyone. But just describe me how you felt when you were looking around the chat, and you had the odd possibility. So 1 out of 9. How are you feeling and why? What do you think?
I was feeling fine.
Claire was confident on "I Will Survive" from Gloria Gaynor. Is that your to-go-to karaoke?
No, I have no idea. I just knew it wasn't me.
You were happy it wasn't you. Okay, cool. Who else? How are you feeling? How are you feeling when you were looking for that message on the chat?
Looking forward to a bit of "In the Ghetto" by Elvis. Trevor
was ready. He was lining up the family. He was getting people out of bed and everything. He wanted an audience, wanted people clapping for Trev. Cool. So I think if there's something to try to take away is so when was the last time you had that feeling? But there you go. John is ready. So when was the last time you had that feeling of, well, I'm going to try this and practice. I'm not quite sure if it's gonna work or not. I'm just going to give it a go and see how. Every practice experience. That's good. That's good. As long as those butterflies are not pulling you back, I think we're on the right track for sure. I think we just keep on trying different things and seeking for inspiration and touching base with other coaches and see what we can do. Creativity is normally associated with trying to break certain rules and trying to move on from patterns that we've always done. I'm going to give you a bit of a recipe that I use a lot in different environments to try to, again, forge that creativity. the first part of the recipes, first step of the recipes, was just over there. Okay, so try to see what's something that has been happening in your organization, in your sport, in your school, your work environment, or whatever it is, and see how can you bend it a little bit, how can you break it, how can you perhaps do it in a different way. Okay, see if you can grab a problem and just so John had a good example before. So we're going to play and nobody's going to be able to talk for the next 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to guess in that scenario, people are struggling to communicate. Okay, or we have a lot of noise, and it's the opposite end of the spectrum. We have a lot of noise, and the comms are not what they should be, which is helping us to perform. So see if you can find a problem and just take it to the next level and see what happens when you take it to the next level. And this one is probably my favorite. Third step of that recipe. See how can you make something that you're really good, so your team's really good at, or a player is really good at, and just take it to the next level. Take it. So if you're the best in the league doing that, well, how can you be the best of all leagues? Or if there's somebody in your team making whatever they're making really special, well, how can that person be not only the best of the team, but the best in the league, or the best across the island, or whatever it is. Okay, so I think that little recipe will give you some inspiration about how to try to get things moving alongside a little bit. Okay, so there you go. So hopefully we're feeling creative. We're going to do another photo. Grab those hats that were part of your secret missions that is not secret anymore, and wear that hat in a way that you've never worn it before. I'm just going to make my screen so as you can go. In a way you've never worn it before.
That's an improvement, Jimmy.
Ready? Whoa, can hold it on. 3, 2, 1. Here we are. Good photo. Well done. We're being creative already. Fantastic. Right, we've got a couple of minutes for any thoughts, any creative ideas, anything you want to share with the group. Hopefully there's lots of people watching this on the recording as well, which you normally get on the post-webinar email. Tell us what's going through your heads. What's happening? What are you thinking? What have you noticed?
How do you deal with the athlete that doesn't want to go out their normal comfort zone, wants to just play the game properly, quote unquote? Good
stuff. No worries, Gareth. Good to have you, mate. What's the... where do you think that comes from, John? I'm not trying to answer your question with another question, but I'm just wondering, where do you think that comes from?
It comes from some people just don't want to be outside their comfort zone. They don't want to be... They don't feel safe enough to let themselves go. Like, take the karaoke thing. I don't care. If I can't sing, but I'd just have a go and have a laugh and just say, well, that's me.
Yeah.
But there are other people who would desperately wouldn't want to do that. And there are people who desperately don't want to play silly games like with somebody else's stick, or with, you can't use your own stick, or you have to change shoes or something with somebody else, and they just... I can't function like that. And yet the number of times in tournaments where somebody has broken their stick, or they've gone along and the umpires have said, you can't use that because it's out of gauge, it's whatever.
Yeah.
You were talking about the American footballs on tonight, old Tom Brady deflating footballs so he can throw them easier in cold conditions. How many times have you gone to a rugby pitch and got given a ball that's so hard, you can't kick it properly, because the opposition is saying, well, we're going to nullify your fly half because we know he can punt it 60 meters. So we're going to put an extra couple of pounds of pressure in the ball, and suddenly he'll be kicking it out on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the first things that comes through my head when you mentioned that scenario is going back to Gibson, going back to this ecological dynamics that talk about the environment, the task, and the individual. And again, I think it's in many ways, our responsibility to manipulate those tasks in order to have that influence in the individual through the environment. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So Ross, what's his last name? I won't remember now. But basically the same academy manager has been at Manchester United for donkey's years. Yeah, I'll send you a very good webinar with him and Stuart Armstrong, who's one of our guests coming up, that they discuss how we went to a level where everything was done for the academy players at the club. I mean, we're talking everything that you can think of. And how they got to the point that was influencing the decision-making and the problem-solving skills in a very bad way, actually. So everything and anything you can think of, they've tried. So they went back to the old training ground, which is obviously not the most level, with the best grass, with the best lighting, okay? Things like Eddie Jones, who coaches England senior team, rugby union team, is planning in advance things like, well, we're going to tell the bus driver in Argentina to get lost for about 35 minutes, or go to a street that he knows there's going to be lots of traffic. Okay, so instead of having 3 hours at the stadium before kickoff, we're going to have an hour and 40 minutes because we're going to be that late. Okay, and there's things like that which are very deliberate, very planned, which I think we need to take into consideration. The first thing, going back to your reflection, John, would be, why do you think, again, he or she is not prepared to come out of your comfort zone? And again, I would come back to what I can control, which is the environment we are proposing. And then we'll try to play around with that environment and see what happens. Telling the individual, look, you've got to play with different stick, or you got to adapt to play in a different position, I don't think it's going to do much. I think if you were in an environment where that scenario of having a broken stick is a scenario that is out there, then the individual will be comfortable. Perhaps he won't be comfortable, perhaps that's not the right word, but he's been through the scenario before. And I'm quite conscious we can't go through every single scenario, but I think we can start tweaking things to make people go into that ugly sort of zone and have to react and solve problems and make decisions in a different way. So there's a very good resource that I've already sent to you. It's called Train Ugly. And it talks about that ugly zone of learning and how do we come out of that learning pit. Thanks, John. Anyone else wants to share anything before we say our goodbyes?
I find, in terms of like forging creativity, is getting your participants to come up with the creativity, because you know, rather than putting that pressure on yourself to feel you've got to do it all the time. And the number of ideas that you can come out with can be phenomenal, and things you would never have dreamed of.
Absolutely. Plan your own practice, record your own practice, do a video. Everybody can do a little InShot or Instagram video or something on their phones within seconds. I don't know, play around with different things in practice. All the bits that Claire was saying before. See what challenges they can come up with, for sure. And see how prepared they are to expose themselves, to look a little bit silly, to perhaps try things in a different way. I think loads of ideas could come from those scenarios. And again, I think they will have a lot of information from the game, perhaps more than us. Anyone else? You're obviously all feeling very creative, so all those ideas are going through your heads right now. Mm-hmm. Cool. Just before Trev wraps it up with all his blessings and church announcements, we're gonna have our first guest in a couple of weeks' time. Dr. Sergio Lara Versial, who leads up the iCoach Kids, which I'm going to send you a couple of resources on the email. He's going to be talking us through the 10 golden rules that they've got at iCoach Kids. Has anybody done a course with iCoach Kids before? Right, I'll send you the links and stuff in the resources. It's a phenomenal resource. It's regulated, supported by the European government. I'm never sure what the actual name is, but it's all free. So everything that they've got online, they got coaching courses, they got different resources, they got all these webinars and these conferences and stuff. Everything is free because supported by this agency. So jump on that. I think you'll find really, really cool stuff. To give you an idea, my local rugby club here in Stamford, for a volunteer coach to join a coaching stuff, coaching their own daughter or son or whatever, they've got to do, I think it's a 50-minute thing online from iCoach Kids. It's got nothing to do with the RFU, although World Rugby is now doing some bits with them, and UEFA is doing some bits with them, and there's lots of sports involved with them. So I'll send you a few of them, and so you can have a look, and then we'll have a chat with Sergio in a couple of weeks, Wednesday, the 3rd of Feb at 7 p.m. So as usual, you get the email with all the information again. So Reverend Trev, over to you.
Thanks, Juan. That was brilliant. No, thank you very much for another fantastic hour and 15 there. That was brilliant, and it's great to see all the interactions going on and the secret missions and so on and so forth. And there was lots of things going back and forth on the chat there, and I think I was kind of gutted I wasn't a victim of the karaoke there. I was quite looking forward to putting my Elvis jumpsuit on. No, still waiting to get that. But no, thank you very much, Juan. That was fantastic. And as Juan said, yeah, our next one with Sergio, that's going to be on, it's like a week, isn't it? Wednesday, the 3rd of February. So it's going to be a week on Wednesday. So not very long at all. And that's at 7 p.m. in the evening as well. And that'll bring us to the halfway point. We'll have another 5 webinars after that. And just rattle through our guests again, as well as Sergio. We've also got Amy Price, who's going to go through gamification. Stuart Armstrong from the Talent Equation, looking at ditching those drills. We've got Sarah Kelleher, who is Irish hockey. Is that right, Juan? Sarah?
GB hockey.
GB hockey.
It's an Irish international. It's now working with GB hockey.
Excellent. And then our last 2 is going to be Suzanne Brown on mental health and Dr. Richard Cheatham on learning about learning. So we've got some big hitters there, some fantastic speakers. So hopefully we'll see all you guys returning for our next ones, and go out there and tell your other coaching friends. Let's see if we can get a few more people banging in on this Zoom call. So it'll be great to see some more people getting involved. So yeah, thank you very much, Juan.
Brilliant. Good news is that the solo is not over. Where you're going to get some actual interesting people that know what they're talking about. So torture's over. Guys, have a fantastic rest of the Sunday evening. Have a great week. And we'll be seeing you in about 10 days.
Thank you.
Cheers, Juan. Thank you very much.
Cheers, all the best. Thank you.
Guys. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Stay safe.